here. I'm expecting to see the first people. Let me see. There's already people coming in. Yes, welcome. We'll start in well, maybe like 40, 50 seconds, something like that. So just bear with us until we hit the start button. Or let me do it like this. We start when we have like maybe 50 participants, something like that. So the counter is on. 27 now. I see people with all kind of interesting names, which indicates that we have people from Finland, from Zambia, from the Netherlands, of course, from Belgium, from Luxembourg. What else can I recognize? Some people I don't even know where they exactly are, but I think at least they had foreign names to me. Spanish. We have people from Switzerland now. Okay, well, let's. I think it's time to start. Let me also see if we are recording this. Yes, we are recording this, so that's great. I think it's time that I start introducing myself. So a warm welcome to everyone. My name is Jan van Betten. I'm the founder of Nudge. I'm going to try to facilitate this meeting. Now, please note, this is my very first webinar. I have had a million Zoom meetings already, but this is the first webinar and it's the first time I'm trying to put this all together. So please bear with me if I make any mistakes. It's really great to see you all here. For practical reasons, we muted all our guests. But just a short instruction, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A button at the bottom of your page. You can type your question and we will definitely see that we answer each and every question, be it during this webinar or eventually afterwards by email. So feel free to ask everything. It's just a short webinar. We won't be able to touch all the subjects, so please feel free. So the first thing I want to do is to ask you a few questions so that we can really see who you are. So if everything goes right, you can see a questionnaire popping up. And would you please be so kind to see if you can answer a few questions. I hope this works, by the way, also the first time. So, and I do see answers coming in, so apparently this works. And yes, we already have people from 4 continents. So I can see people coming in from South America, from North America, from Asia, from Europe, from Africa. The only continent that's still missing is Australia. So then we have people, most people are in the age group of our participants, between 23 and 33 years old. That's wonderful. And then interesting enough, we have people in the roles with marketing, communication, digital innovation, business development, sales, sustainable business development, human resources, and homeschooling my kids like a pro. Wow, that's fantastic. So yes, nobody's from Australia, which is not so strange because we're at a very wrong moment for Australia, I think. The same for Asia, so I'm very happy to even see people from Asia. It must be in the middle of the night for them, so welcome, welcome. And thank you for answering our little poll so that at least we sort of get a clue of who's here. I'll share the results with you so that you can see them as well. So back to our little webinar. Welcome again, because this is the official moment of the kickoff of the Nudge Global Impact Challenge 2020. and very delighted to see all of you here. The next hour we will try to explain a little bit about the Nudge Global Impact Challenge. You will have to bear with me for, let's say, 8 more minutes. And we will tell you everything about the why, the what, the how. Yeah, I think the how and is especially important in these times of Corona. After me will speak Ning-Hsuan. Do I pronounce that right, Ning? I hope so. Who participated last year in our challenge and who will share definitely her experience with you. After Ning, we will have Rick Koster, who is our partner for the leadership development. And we'll explain a little bit what is to be learned at this program. And then finally, we have Robert Metzke, who is the global head of sustainability at Philips. Now, I think that Robert will have a very, very interesting story to tell because 2 sides. Philips, we've been working with Robert and Philips for a few years now. But also what's happening at Philips at the moment is that they are developing thousands of ventilators, more than they expected to do because of this Corona time. And he will also explain how that works, what kind of leadership, what kind of innovation do you need to have that working in your organization. All right, so a little bit of background on the Global Impact Challenge. We started this program 10 years ago because we strongly believe that this world needs new leadership, a new form of leadership. And you can't start early enough to do that. So we started with a young generation because these people will be at the helm of the world, I would say, within 10, 15 years. And now the big question, of course, is in this times of change, what kind of leadership do we need? Do we need new Gandhis, new Mandelas, new Martin Luther Kings? Some people agree that humanity, facing the huge mess we're in at the moment, will ask again for big leaders. Well, I have seen a few big leaders the last few weeks, and I'm not very impressed, to be honest. I would argue that we are getting much closer to collective movements and less hegemonic figures. The world changes faster, new challenges demand new leadership. We know that technology, digitalization establishes different dynamics for communication, social movements. So where is this future taking us? What is the kind of leadership we need? And how does this program fit into that? So I think, and that is what we try to establish, we need new, courageous, intelligent, dedicated leadership. In this period of transition and growing social change, we will need leaders who are at one side positive and at another side calm. We need leaders with a sound integrity. We will need leaders who are not in love with publicity, but in love with justice. I think we need leaders who are not in love with money, but in love with humanity. I think we need leaders who can subject their egos to the greatness of the cause. And I think we have a great cause ahead of us. So we designed a program, and it's been going on for almost 10 years now. We designed an 8-month program where we work through the theory of sustainable business, with in the background, the global development goals. But more importantly, we work on the personal leadership of our participants and how to bring their ideas into practice so that you learn by doing. Now, most programs that are very high quality and very high level are taught at prestigious universities or prestigious business schools. We all know the IMDs and the likes, which, you know, brings you in touch, gets you in touch with thought leaders and business gurus. Now, but that mostly starts at the age of 35, 40, you know, when organizations are willing to invest a lot of money in you. We thought that we should be trying to put these gurus, these business leaders, these thought leaders in front of you, in front of our participants at the age of 23. That's what we're trying to do. We are trying to introduce this kind of learning from the very, very best at a very available and accessible moment. So this program is specifically designed for young professionals in the age between 23, 33, who will be really at the helm of our business, at our world, in let's say 10 to 15 years. So we want them to develop into this kind of leaders that the world actually needs today. And also a specific thing of this program is that it combines I would say, the head and the heart. We strongly believe that not only we need to understand what's going on, but we need participants who are intrinsically and intensely motivated to become that specific kind of leader that this world needs. And our participants join us from all over the world. Last year we had participants from 35 countries, which makes it a very beautiful international company. So we have people from large corporations like Heineken or Danone, but we also got people from NGOs, from governments, from startups. And that's no coincidence, because we really strive for a very diverse cohort. We believe in very, very much in working together in diverse teams with different backgrounds, different roles in their organizations, and from very different cultures, because we think that's also the new world. You know, in a new world, people need to know and to learn how to work together in these new mindsets and new teams. So we strive to deliver leaders who are able to combine short-term with long-term, who are able to bridge gaps, or humble, real connectors, people who can listen, work in a team, be decisive when they need to be. So practical, this program starts in August. It will start online, and it will end with a gathering, a live gathering of all participants. And now in this Corona time, we don't know yet when that will be. We have different options at the moment, but time will learn when this is going to happen. So that date and time and place will be announced at a later stage. What is important to know is that the program will start online and that it will continue and end with a live meeting. So at the end of the program, people will have developed all the skills, but also the mindset to be that leader of the future. Now, I can't cover everything in my limited time, so please type in your questions. I'm happy to answer them afterwards. And I want to give the word to Ning-Hsuan, who participated in the challenge last year. And Ning, I'm very happy that you want to share your experience with us. The virtual floor is entirely yours.
Great. Jan, I remember you have a question, right? Can you maybe repeat that in the meeting invite, or I can find it?
Sorry, I don't know exactly what I would want to reply to your question, but I don't know exactly what you're referring to. So I would be very happy if you just answer how do you experience the challenge? What happened to you?
Okay, so first of all, I really enjoyed the challenge, and I now read again the meeting invite. I realize I interpret challenge of the current challenge we are facing of Corona. So I think when all the Corona crisis just started, I remember I reached out to my nudge coach to just thank him for helping me start to prepare for the real challenge we are facing nowadays. Of course, at the time when I participated in Nudge last year, we did not know the Corona is coming, but everything I have learned at Nudge is really helpful for me at this moment in this Corona challenge. I can be very honest with all the participants online. Personally, I have found this situation very challenging, even though I think I'm in a very lucky position where I can still do the job I love. I have people I know around me still healthy and well, but still the whole situation is very overwhelming. And I just found myself ups and downs every day trying to cope with it. And sometimes I don't even know why, because as I just share, I actually sometimes think I should not feel bad, or I should just actually do more, since I'm in a relatively well positioned. But there are just days I just couldn't cope with all the information around me and all the uncertainties in front of us. And I keep recording the message I learned from the Nudge Impact Challenge last year, which is to take care of myself first. Because one of my biggest lessons from the Nudge last year was that as a person, I dare to say, I have been trying to create a lot of impacts around me. But what I have forgot before I went to Nudge, especially when I get busier and busier and involved in more and more initiatives, is that I was so busy with trying to take care of the world, trying to take care of people around me, but I have completely forgot myself. And that was really a big message I got out from the Nudge Global Impact Challenge last year, is that to create an impact, you have to start from yourself. And I think that also come back to Yang's your message about the nudge model that help leaders of the future connect with their heads and hands and heart. Because I think most of the people who will be able to come to nudge are already doing very well in terms of connecting their heads and hands, and they are usually those who have been creating a lot of impact in our societies. But I think the economy model or the education we have been having in the current system are not yet there to talk a lot about heart. And you also see a lot now in the Corona crisis that the humanity, the human factor, because that is also the topic we had last year, the human factor in terms of how do you feel, your feelings, how your feelings play a role in our daily life start to be mentioned more and more, especially in this challenging time. And I personally think Corona crisis is not the only challenge we as a human being will face. There will be a lot more challenge in front of us. And Corona is just, I sometimes, like these days, I sometimes feel I'm just being thrown into this kind of mind training gym where I am forced to really cope with a lot of things that were mentioned on the papers, in the trainings, and now everything is real around me. And I have also connected several times with my nudge peers and my nudge coach to just talk about how can we really implement what we learned at nudge into the daily life we have, because what we learned at nudge was really trying to prepare us for this kind of challenging situation. It's really unfortunate that we are now in this challenging situation, but since we are in this challenging situation now, what can we do about it? So I'm really thankful for the Nudge Global Impact Challenge, and I'm now also trying to be an active ambassador to share about what I learned at Nudge with people around me, with the people I work with, and just with random people that I get a chance to connect. Yang, I think you are on mute.
Yes, you see, I have to get used to this. Thank you very much, Ning. And you're recommending, why would you recommend this to other people?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I have a personal story to share, because last year around this time, I was also in this position to try to figure out if not just for me. And one of the former participants that I get to connect one-on-one, I remember he told me in our virtual meetings that he would trade his life for nudge. And at the time I was still really new to all this. I was like, oh, wow, this is really a strong statement. And that really got me into like completing my application in one weekend, because I was quite close to deadline. And now I can really record what he say about that, because I think it's such a unique experience, and that is also what we are most of the time missing in the current environment we live, is this model where I don't know. I think I have already tried to ask Jan and Rick for a few times, like, what did you guys do to me? But it's such a transformation experience. I don't know how to describe. I don't know where to start.
I always, maybe you can finish with answering this question. I always promise people that it's a life-changing program. Would you be able to confirm or deny that?
I can confirm, but I didn't know how it happened. So you guys have to find out. All
right. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ning, for being here today, because I know you have a very, very busy schedule. So very much appreciated.
Of course.
So I'm going to give the word to Rick, who is responsible for a big chunk of the program, especially when it's about leadership development. So Rick, please introduce yourself and share with us your, well, parts of the program. What is it all about?
Thanks a lot, Jan. And a warm welcome also from me to you, to all of you, for joining in on this kickoff of the Challenge 2020. Indeed, I believe that the word that resonated with me when you talked, Ning, is transformative, transformational. And I think that's actually what we are building together, a transformational experience. And how we do it, yes, somehow it's you would say it's magic, but in that magic it is because we bring together like-minded people who want to change the world for the better, who wants to make the world more sustainable in many, many different ways. And the atmosphere that's at the challenge, when we have the 3.5 days learning experience, it's just amazing. I've been working for 20 years now, doing all kinds of executive leadership programs, but this nudge challenge is really different in that sense. And I will share some of the insights that we have built throughout the 10 years that we have been building this program and readjusting it, me together with my team at LeaderScope, which also includes some of the, I will say, best professors in leadership. And they are also amazed about what we are able to do in this program. So I'll share my screen also to show you some of the pictures that has been taken by Bibi Fett, and she's a great photographer. And this is one of them. So these are 90 participants of last year's challenge. And every year there are 90 participants. So in the last 10 editions, we have more than 950 participants. So there's a huge alumni network that is very strong with they're all passionate. So one of the things that I always say to people is we don't have to learn these people to be passionate about changing the world. They already are, but they have to find out, how do I do that? So what we found out is that there are four needs that people have, that the participants have. And one is, how do you form a core team? Building a compelling story around your impact plan, having constructive feedback on your impact plan to make it even better and more feasible, and building courage to really act on whatever you want to achieve. So I will go through them for a moment. So having a core team, what I see is when people come in, they write their impact plan. This is what I want to achieve. This is why I want to achieve this. And when they start working on it, some of them believe that you have to also do all the work yourself. And we realized throughout the years, it's so important to create a core supporting team with whom you're going to create this impact. And we will teach you how to build this team and how to sustain this team. And this is by one of the ways. We go outside, we have all kinds of outdoor activities, and that really works to see, oh yeah, this is how we build a team within this network of like-minded people, but also in your own environment. And what we also is very important element of the Nudge Challenge is to have fun together, because teams that have fun perform better. So that's what we're also building. Okay, so a core team is one. And then the second one is having a compelling story to tell about your impact plan. So during the challenge, the 3-day learning experience, we really help you to build a story that is compelling to other people. And here you see at the end that everybody is giving their 2-minute speech about their impact plan. And we know that this speech is so important because you have to tell this story over and over again in different settings to get people along with your idea, to build a movement around it. And just to share you some of the stories, there are so many good stories around that participants have been achieving. But I just want to show you this young man. And he's Ning-Hsuan, and he's from Vietnam, and he works for Heineken, as you can see. And his first idea was something about building sustainable festivals. But during the challenge, his ideas got changed because of all the great speakers, but also other participants. And he changed his idea to say, what if we collect all the caps of the bottles of beer? And there's a city, and 2 of the sides of this city, they're not connected anymore because the bridge has collapsed in between. What if we build a new bridge for them? And this is actually what this bridge looks like. And it's amazing. So they collected so many of these caps that they could rebuild this bridge. And that also, of course, it's a very impactful impact plan that he had built. But also for Heineken Vietnam, it meant that they had to think differently about their strategy to become more sustainable as well. So it had a huge impact on that. A very, very nice example. And there are so many more examples that we could share with you, stories of former participants who created huge impact. Then the third C, so to say, is a constructive feedback. So what you see here is that one of the participants bring in their challenge. This is what I want to create. This is what I want to build on in my impact plan. And the other participants work through a method called friendly consulting. And this is developed by one of my colleagues, Jan van Betten, who's a professor in leadership, and he works together with Henry Mintzberg. And they've developed this way of working in which you really challenge each other to build a better impact plan, who's on the one hand more feasible, but on the other end also more ambitious and more passionate and more creative as well. And it works really well to shape the impact plan to make it better. So that's also what you get, a lot of constructive feedback to improve your impact plan. And the last one is courage. What we saw is that the participants between 23 and 33 years old, you're in a very, I must say, vulnerable period in your life. And Ning already said, sometimes you're so overwhelmed by what the whole world is bringing to you. And what we do is you get one-on-one coaching by a professional, very experienced coach, and they really look into you as a person and they help you develop as a person. One of the things we see is to build on courage, to become more self-assured, also more self-knowledgeable, and have the courage to really act on your impact plan. And this is, for instance, Alexander. And Alexander is an amazing guy. After his one-on-one coaching, he asked me to have another coaching session with him after the challenge. So we talked on the phone. And it is amazing. He has founded 4 different social enterprises in Moldova. He had 1 environmental academy built to train people about sustainability. And yet, when he asked me a question up front, what do you want to learn? He said this: I understand that my social skills are one of my weaknesses. How can a shy, closed, introvert guy like me lead other people into his vision and impact plan? And this question really strikes me a lot because it says a lot about how he looks at leadership. And I asked him also, what is leadership to you? And it turns out that his first view was, well, a good leader is somebody who's extrovert and taking strong, firm standpoints. And then when he thought about it better, he thought, no, what really for me is a good leader is a servant leader. Somebody who supports other people And actually, I'm already doing that. Well, this change of looking at leadership really made him make some tough decisions that he had to take in his own team, and really moved him forward. So really great to see how much impact you can create for a person and how much impact he creates in his own environment in Moldova. So this is what we bring you in short, these four. So we help you. How do you build a core team around your impact plan? How do you create a compelling story about it? You get constructive feedback from former participants, but also from senior, experienced social entrepreneurs and business people. And we're building on your courage and your self-knowledge to really create the impact that you desire and that you're passionate about. And we do it together as a core team of Nudge. This is our core team. I'm very proud to be part of it and to build this program again. Of course, we are transforming it now to a more hybrid version in which we do even more online. And I'm really, really looking forward to work again this year with the whole team. Back to you, Jan. You're on mute, Jan. If you can take it off mute. He's looking at it.
So sorry. Yeah,
yeah, there you are.
I sort of lost my screen, so including the buttons. I'm back again. So thank you very much, Rick. So looking forward to the next program, I guess.
Me too. Yes, I am, for sure. Yeah.
I can
and I'm
imagine.
also, sorry.
No, I can imagine. We're gonna do it a little bit differently this year because, of course, we're gonna switch to an even more online version of the program.
Yeah.
You know, as Robert said yesterday, it's the new normal, and so we're gonna switch to the new normal very rapidly.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to give the word now to Robert, and Robert. Well, I'm sure you have a very compelling story to tell us. So please be our guest.
Thanks, Jan. And otherwise, I would have said you should be our guest, right, by having the Kickoff Nudge 2020 at the Philips headquarters. But thanks for being all here virtually also. So very warm welcome. And I know the nudgers are extremely competent, but also very modest and humble. So let me just say, this is always fireworks and gives me so much energy. So it's just great to be in touch with you guys. And it has been a pleasure working together for many years now and seeing how Nudge really helps to shape the next generation of leaders. So you have invited me to maybe spend 10 minutes or so to give a little bit of perspective from a company that has been working with Nudge. But maybe let me pick it up where Ning left it off, right? You talked about COVID time is learning time. So in that sense, life gives us all these challenges to reflect on what is not working today and what could be working better tomorrow, I would say. So it's like somebody's feeding you with a big spoon, a very big spoon. So the only thing that you can do is keep swallowing and say, thank you, can I have a little bit more? So that's how I experienced that. And there are lots of things changing, of course, all around us. At a global level, we talked about the pandemic and global leaders, but at the company level, in our teams and our families, and at a personal level, and Ning, you spoke about it also, what that means, right? So I experienced that myself. I've been working like crazy all week, and then on Saturday, I was expecting myself to go and do something nice with my family, keeping up the cheering, and I just couldn't get myself to that. So also being honest to ourselves and see what we can show, and being modest and being transparent is also, I think, a leadership quality that makes it more genuine and helps people to get along. What I wanted to share with you guys is a little bit of the Philips journey in this. Let me very briefly introduce myself. Excuse me. So I'm leading sustainability at Philips globally at the group level and in the function, and I'm also the Chief of Staff for Innovation and Strategy. And I will share my screen with you and then maybe share some slides. I hope you can see that. Yes. I see people nodding, that's fantastic. So maybe for us, innovating for sustainable development is the essence and the core of our strategy, also what we're trying to do. And that is huge ambition, and it takes a lot of nudging. So in that sense, I'm really grateful for the nudge team to also think with us, how do we make that scalable? How do we actually really interconnect the purpose, your personal purpose, my personal purpose, with the purpose of a company that says we want to improve people's lives. We want to work on a world that is more healthy, more sustainable. And how do you make that practical? And that I think is very powerful in the approach of organizing change. Let me just minimize that because I'm afraid otherwise it might interfere. So the context, and you all know that because you are deeply into sustainable development, otherwise you wouldn't be joining here. I mean, the healthcare systems have been stretched before COVID, beyond boundaries also, and now there's an additional burden coming on top of that, which is really asking impossible things from people that are working in the healthcare systems. At the same time, there's so much waste also in healthcare systems globally. If you think about it, the waste in the US system was the same size as the entire GDP of the Netherlands, which is one of the G20 economies. And if you then contrast it with the fact that half of mankind does not have access to healthcare at all, then I sometimes scratch my head and say, what is the world that we are living in, right? And a good friend of mine always says, the biggest room is the room for improvement. So that is definitely true in that context. So Earth Overshoot Day will be this year, I think, somewhere at the end of July. That means as of July 29th or whatever it will be, we will be consuming more resources than Earth can regenerate. And that day has been moving forward ever since they started measuring that 30 years ago. And then, of course, we all know the huge impact of climate change, also on healthcare, on heat waves, on everything, basically. So we really need to achieve that 1.5 degree target. I think that's the context. If anybody tells me he or she is getting bored and doesn't know what to do, then I would always say, well, look at the challenges and pick your battle. There's plenty to do. Now, if you take a step back and put that in a discussion on what are material impact topics, so how should you decide what to do, then of course, the essence of innovating for sustainable development is really about helping people to live better, and at the same time, getting the footprint per capita down to a level that is sustainable within the limits of this one planet that we have. And this slide has helped us a lot in the strategy discussions that we started many years ago, also with the board of Philips, and when Frans van Houten came along as our CEO, because it really makes things clear. The bubbles that you see are the countries. The big one here, for instance, that's China, that's India, 1.3 billion people each at this point in time. And on the x-axis, you see how well people live in these countries, and on the y-axis, how many resources per capita they use. And then you observe that all the countries with the high human development index use a multiple of the one planet cutoff that we have actually. And there's actually a dynamic behind that where the United States has been somewhere here 30 years ago. So if India and China follow that route, then we need 3 or 4 planets, which we simply don't have. So I think that very clearly illustrates what sustainable development and innovating for sustainable development should be about. Moving people up to the right and helping them to lower the footprint per capita to a level that is sustainable. At Philips, that means, well, we are a health tech company by now, really focusing on keeping people healthy and diagnosing them right, providing minimally invasive therapies and taking care of people when they need care at home also, so in the entire spectrum. So that means for us, making healthcare accessible is critical, a critical contribution on the x-axis. And on the y-axis, we have been doing, for instance, life cycle assessments, eco-passports, all kinds of things to understand where's our impact end-to-end in the chain and the supply chain and the production and the use phase of things. And you see it always comes back to the sustainable use of materials and energy. And then you end up with a very, I think, compelling and also compact core of what sustainability means for Philips. In our vision, we say very clearly, we want to make the world more healthy and more sustainable. And then we focus on a number of sustainable development goals that you see here, starting with health and well-being for all, addressing the circular economy and eco-design, climate change, and we do that in partnership and collaboration, including Nudge, for instance. And then when you look at the social impact areas in details, then you see we have set by 2030, which is the deadline for the Sustainable Development Goals, we want to improve 3 billion people's lives globally, and specifically want to make sure that 400 million people in underserved communities that don't have access to healthcare have access to healthcare by that time. So that's a huge amount. That's more than the inhabitants of all of the US. You can imagine that not a single company alone can do that, but working with partners, working with governments, NGOs, other companies to really pull that off, UN organizations, is a very inspiring and great thing that drives a lot of innovation in our company, I can assure you. Similar on circular economy, where we've said we want to take back all large-scale medical equipment by the end of this year. Carbon, we will be operating all of our operations globally, all factories, offices, what have you not, 100% on renewable electricity and be entirely carbon neutral. So I could go on, but just to sketch you a little bit the idea of, okay, here's a big challenge. How do I understand where I can contribute, and then bring it down to something where you actually have impact at a company level? And then, of course, there still is the big question on how do you deliver on that, right? And I think this is where you come in also, the nudgers, the next generation of leaders also thinking about how you take the stakeholders along on any idea, basically. It's really large-scale transformation. And it often starts with a great idea and envisioning an ideation phase. Then you want to test it, you go into piloting, keep learning, sharing best practices, building the capabilities to really scale it up, mature it, embed it in the existing processes, and then keep monitoring to improve. I think that's a very typical S-curve that you know from innovation management or wherever. But there are a lot of challenges, and it also means if you want to drive change at a large scale in your organizations, there's not a silver bullet or one size fits all, and you really need to understand where the people are on this curve, and then target them around it also to take them along, right? Not take the third step before the first one. Maybe the last thing that I wanted to share with you from the Philips approach also. So transformation is very much also an art, but it is also a science. There's a lot of stuff that you should know and that you will learn, and you would learn if you join, of course, the nudge program here. You need this compelling story. You need to have a way to engage and really drive activation, but you also need to think about competence building and embedding. And to me, this is really, in a simple way, like one of these bike locks with the 4 digits that you have. If you have 1 digit right, you cannot bike away. You need all 4 of them. And I've seen a lot of companies try and experiment. Some of them have a great communication plan. Others are excellent embedding it in their processes. But all of the 4 digits need to be in place to get moving. So while there's a lot of charisma helps, personal enthusiasm, great experiments, it's all very helpful. But please think about a comprehensive plan that brings all of this together to make sure that in the end it takes off. Maybe let me close this little overview of what we are doing and how we are doing that in 10 minutes, basically with quoting my fellow countryman Einstein here, who said, those who have the privilege to know have the duty to act. And I think all of us have very much the privilege to know with our education backgrounds, the opportunities that we have, the big companies that we work for, the NGOs. So it's also up to us to really do act and take responsibility. And Jan, you put me really on a pedestrian, saying you have a great story on Philips. So maybe let me just get back to that great cliffhanger. I think the example that you were referring to, I mentioned that we have been able to develop a ventilator in a COVID crisis environment within 3 weeks' time, and we got it FDA approved within 48 hours, which is unprecedented. It takes typically maybe 2 years or something to make a device that is so complex, and it may take many, many, many months for an FDA organization or something like that to approve that. So one of the key insights for me is, and it comes back to the discussion that we had about leadership qualities also, this is clear alignment on purpose. If you realize in your daily work, when you get out of bed, when you get to your work, whatever you do, there are lives at stake, and every hour counts. You act in a different way. You put aside your personal quarrels. We saw these multidisciplinary teams forming. Indeed, not leaders that were drumming and saying, I know everything, but rather leaders that were facilitating, connecting the dots, clearing away obstacles, right? Organizing supply pipelines, regardless of any other concerns. So I think trusted, enabling, empowering leadership is really, really critical. And this alignment and clarity on purpose, what do I do it for, at a personal level and organizational level, really makes a difference. And I'm sure, and I'm very hopeful that we can try to capture some of that and also make that part of our organizational culture, so to say, also in the post-acute part of the COVID development. Thanks. You are still on mute, Jan. You're always on mute.
Sorry.
Now we can hear again.
I'm very disciplined at muting, but not so much on unmuting. So thank you very, very much, Robert. I mean, even if it's based on a shared purpose or whatever, I still am very, very much impressed on what you did there. Because I'm sure that here also all the 4 digits came together to make it really, really work. So I think it's also the leadership of Philips, and then the beautiful purpose and the strategy and everything, and the right people that brought it all together. So, but thank you very much for your support as well and your enthusiasm. And
maybe if you can grant me one more sentence.
Yeah, sure.
I think we talk a lot about the crisis also, and it keeps us busy, of course, but I think there are more curves that we need to flatten. And Ning also touched on that, right? And so if we could move from expand the idea of the 1.5 meter society to the 1.5 degree society also, right? Thinking about climate change. We can learn a lot from that. So I think that's just the last point that I really wanted to make. Encourage you guys.
Thank you very much. It's very, very true. You know, we not only have this crisis, but we have several crises to overcome and a lot of learnings. And the beauty of it is that we also have a fantastic momentum. So if you look at the bright side of this, so let's pick up that momentum and get where we need to be going. So again, thank you very much. We're getting to the end of this program, and so sorry. I hope that in a year or so we will be doing this live, eventually again in your head office, Robert. But let's see where it takes us. We need to adapt to the circumstances.
And I can see that there are some questions. Maybe we
yes.
can have some of the questions I think we could answer now. And of course, later on, maybe you could also connect to them directly. But I think that there are some questions that we could tap on.
Yes. So can I pick the first one and then give the next question to you, Rick?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. So I see a question of, I'm not sure if we all can see the questions, which would be perfectly fine, but I see a question from Anna Walter, who asks what the whole thing has to do with nudging. Let me answer that one. The name of our organization comes from the famous book Nudge. When I was looking for a name, actually. And when I saw that title, you know, I grew up in English-speaking organizations, but the word nudge, it ringed a bell, but I didn't really know what it meant. So I looked it up. I found it a very compelling name. And when I looked it up, the dictionary says a gentle push. So that is what struck me. That's why I immediately decided to use that name, because it's all about a gentle push we're doing. We're not activists. We're actually very gentle, but we're also talking about pushing. Now, the theory of nudging is about influencing behavior, which of course we sort of try to do, but not secretly. But very much in the open, we try to influence the behavior of our future leaders. So it has not so much to do with the theory of nudging, but it does have to do with gentle pushing society where it needs to go. So I hope that I answered this question right. And please feel free to type another question if you want to. So Rick, the next question that I see is from Barbara Brahms, but I'm not sure if you would be the right person to answer this question. Actually, I would want to give that question to Ilse, the program manager of Nudge. I'm not sure if Ilse is, can you unmute yourself, Ilse? Yes, thank you. And even come up on stage.
I am.
Here you
Welcome.
are.
Hi.
Here you are. So let me introduce you to Ilse, my brilliant colleague who has been leading this program for 9 years now, or 10 years even. So the question of Barbara, do you expect to have an international group in the Netherlands because of the corona limitations?
Mm-hmm.
So can you try to answer that question, or maybe you can try to answer it together? But I give you.
Of course. Because of the corona limitations that affect the whole world, of course, if there's still limitations, we won't be able to have all the people join us in the Netherlands. As Jan mentioned in the beginning, the program will take place. We will start off digitally mid-August. And what it means is that we will work towards either physical together if there are no limitations. If there are limitations, we will get together at a later moment in time. But it doesn't mean that the program won't happen, because it will happen digitally. I hope this answers the questions. And as soon as the corona limitations are not there anymore, we will work together to getting together physically.
Well, okay. Thank you very much. I hope this answers the question. It's, you know, it's a time of uncertainties, and we have to manage these uncertainties. We definitely hope to be together at a certain moment. So now I'm going to do a little experiment, if you allow me to. We have a former participant, his name is Pasha Tayebi. I just gave him the right to talk. And Pasha didn't have a question, but he wanted to say something. Now let's see if this works, Pasha. Can you try to answer this question?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can, actually.
Oh, amazing. And I did not prepare for this, Jan, so I hope I don't see all the laundry in the background.
I don't think you're visible, so
okay.
Don't worry.
It would not be an issue. Yeah, yeah. What can I say about Nudge? I really, you know, it's almost like a emotional thing, you know. And I'm not like I'm a pretty rational guy, but this event, I think, but this event or this experience that I had like a few years ago, participating in the Nudge program, was really, as for my personal development, but also for my perspective on people, on, you know, on like-minded people in the world and what they can do, was such a boost in terms of energy and hope, and also in terms of personal development, that I really think the Nudge, and that's why you're asking me, Jan. But I really think Nudge is this special organization and has something unique here. So yeah, I hope really that you guys are gonna make it face to face, and if not, gonna, you know, have somewhat the same experience, I hope, if you have to do it online.
All right, thank you very much. And of course, we'll do.
Yeah, okay. Can I say something? Something else. Last thing.
Sure. Well,
you know, in the past few years, there were other Nudge participants coming after me, and then they called me and they asked me, you know, Pasha, do you have any advice for me, or what should I do? And I gave 2 people advice, and they came back to me later on and said, this was really good advice. So there's 2 people, so kind of validated it. And my advice was, just for what it's worth, is to really be yourself. And this is such a, you know, such a corny one, but it was so important, because by really being yourself, you're opening up to so many new opportunities and experiences. And instead of, you know, trying to prove yourself or anything, just really being yourself and opening up fully, and you're going to have a great experience. So good luck, everybody.
Well, thank you very much, Barsha, for your contribution. I think this works very well. So maybe we can see if we can have the next question also live, if Roos Haasnoot does not mind. So let me see, Roos, if we can have you live here. Roos, can you hear me?
Hi, Jan. Yeah, can you hear me too?
Yes, I can. So can you ask your questions live?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I was just wondering because I'm quite interested in the program, but I wanted to know a little bit more about the application process and especially about the wild card. Like, how does it work exactly? Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Okay, let me see. Ilse, could you answer something about the application process and the wildcard?
Yes, of course. On our website, notchglobalimpactchallenge.com, we have in the menu a button called Apply Now. It's the easiest to guide you there, Rose, and anybody who wants to know, because it explains clearly that you can apply either as a company participant or as a wildcard participant. What it means is that you have to click a button, fill in the form. If you are a company participant, it means that your organization is able to sponsor your participation and you will be automatically in the program once you have organized that. If you are a wildcard participant, you are trying to gain a wildcard, meaning a free participation in our program. And again, if you want to apply as a wildcard, there will be a selection process. As you can imagine, we have a couple of hundred applications each year from young professionals like yourselves, Roos, from all over the world. And we have quite a thorough selection process. The good news for this year is that we have 30 wildcards to give away, which is quite a high number. So I would definitely enthuse you to apply as a wildcard candidate. The form asks you to answer several questions, practical details, but very much also open questions, because we'd like to get to know you a little bit better. And if you also manage to get into a Skype interview, which will follow after your application, there's a high chance that you will win a wildcard. Does this answer your question, Roos?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Great. So we have one more question. We have time for one more question, I think. And all questions will be answered by email, huh? So you're not left out. Let me see. I think how much time does it take while doing the program? Maybe this is also a good one to have answered by someone who already was participating. So Ning, could you tell something about it?
Yes, I can. And I also saw questions about what I have been doing after the challenge. So I will answer this together.
Oh, good.
So I did not mention when I was talking that actually my current job is part of my impact plan. So when I was attending the challenge last year, I was doing something else than being a sustainability professional. And that is also why I have been recommending the friendly consulting to everyone, because I actually got this advice from my peers during the friendly consulting that since you are so passionate about sustainability, why don't you just do it as your job? And this is really, in the 29 years of my life, I've never thought of it. And it really struck me on the spot. But I think the next second, I already realized this connect all the dots and make a lot of sense. So I think that also depends a little bit on what kind of impact plan do you want to implement. So for me, I really want to build a community. I want to mobilize all my colleagues, and that is impossible to do that as a volunteer. So the first step of my impact plan was actually to try to make it a job, and now I make it a job. So I'm doing it full time. But yeah, I think it really depends on what is your impact plan and what do you want to achieve.
Okay, and the second question is, so that was actually your impact plan. That's what you're doing now. Was it difficult to get there?
Oh yeah, hell yes. Yeah, I think I didn't realize what I signed up for it. It has been a great journey so far. It's very challenging, I would say. But I think that's also why you need to be surrounded by a group of people, because I think all the impacts we wanted to achieve, there's no way you can do this alone. And that is also one of the greatest lessons I learned at Nudge last year, is that you cannot do everything alone, and you need to have the skills to bring people on board. And I think sometimes it's so easy to just say, okay, I will do that, I will do this, I will do everything. And by the time you realize, you already have maybe 1 million things on your to-do list, and you will never be able to finish it. So one of the skills I'm also practicing after Nudge is to try to nudge others to get on board, to make them my first followers. Yep. So I don't dance everything on my own.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Ning, unfortunately, it is time for us to end this session. We always stick to our time schedule, so I'm sorry. All your questions, indeed, still the open questions will be answered, so don't worry. And feel free to email us, call us, text us, or whatever you want. Thank you so much for your attendance. I was very happy to have you had in this meeting. Next time, we'll do it in the head office of Philips, and we'll have a drink as well. So thank you very much. Be safe, stay healthy, and keep on smiling.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.